So uranium is not anything new to me. In fact, people would ask me, well, how did you know about it, LS or Ellis? And I would say, well, actually, or how did you work with it? They would ask. And I would say, well, actually, I had another form of life that was, in fact, exoskeletons. And they actually had a protective shield. I believe it is bone or something like that. Dense bone or a protective shield like crabs or whatever. I think the material actually... I think it was actually a diamond carbide life form actually that they actually used. They still use like a protective thingy, something really dense basically. If you're properly shielded with something that's super dense or something like that, you can actually work with uranium fairly what's called. But they didn't have eyes or anything like that. I think they used echolocation. It was a very specifically created life form that was not mechanical, it was biological, and they were fairly not sentient, more like worker bees, like, and they didn't use complicated commands or whatever like that. It's more like you just ask them to do things or whatever. Anyway, it's a long time ago. That's how I knew about uranium. Like I say, life in space, when you get out there, there's lots of radiation out there. Huge amounts of radiation. Of course, I know that more from other stuff. Originally, at one point in time, I didn't know that, or I was being restricted from knowing that. But anyway, then we found out. Anyway, though, but because I joined the humanity, basically. I basically joined humanity, or whatever. Technically, I created humanity. So, anyway, I was being restricted at some point in time. Anyway, life in space. Life long ago. Actually, in space, long time ago, there wasn't so much radiation. There was actually no radiation, in fact. I believe it was actually, this would be before the stars or the suns or anything like that. There was actually there wasn't really much of anything, I don't think. Anyway, we're talking about 100 trillion years ago. Anyway, though, one of the byproducts of having giant fusion reactors in space, because like I say, the sun is actually an unchained or let loose fusion reactor, basically. Pretty much, the sun is a fusion reactor. If you take a fusion reactor, take it up to space, and let it get as hot as it can possibly get, you get the sun. Something like that. Anyway, it's basically a fusion reaction that is basically out of control, man! Pretty much. Anyway, something like that, basically. Anyway, like I say, as you get to the higher end and stuff like that, I'm just a human now. I'm no longer what I used to be or who I used to be. I'm not true LS anymore. I'm Lucifer Star, the person, basically. And pretty much, like I said, a lot of people were like, we're like, the atom is safe. The atom, they weren't telling me that was uranium or whatever. And I was just being told about basically my train's catching on fire. It's like a boxcar caught on fire. Why? Put it out. What that? We can't. What do you mean you can't? And we're sick now, and they're sick now. It's like, what? Okay, I gotta find out more. Anyway, I'm Lucifer Star, or LS, of basically the LS shipyard and LC shipyard, and basically all this other stuff. So basically, when I want to find out something, it gets found out. So anyway, lots of years go by, and blah 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 blah, and lots of stuff, and basically race war. Anyway, though, but basically, uranium is very dangerous. So are nuclear reactors. If not handled properly, you can't even open them up or mess around with them. And later on, they're like, we've been exposed. What do we do? I was like, get out of the room first of all. like somebody took off the iron, the what's called protective thing around the uranium or whatever, and exposed themselves or whatever. I was like, get out of the room for one thing. Anyway. Or something like that. Anyway, though, but he got a lethal dose of radiation, pretty much. Anyway, there are materials and metals that will protect against it. Anyway, apparently all this stuff was being restricted from the public for some reason. Like I said, stuff like that little thingy is 2 pieces, basically, in uranium, or a very high isotope in the middle. That was mine. That was my stuff. It's actually from Germany and other things like that. Like I say, the United States knows nothing about radiation. Absolutely nothing. Like, don't even ask them. You want to know about radiation, you go to Germany and basically United Kingdom or China. They'll tell you about radiation. Do not ask anyone in the United States or Mexico. They do not know. They have no idea, and they've probably been lied to. Anyway, so that's how it is. Anything that the United States knows about radiation, they've actually found out from Germany or basically England or China. There's not one scientist among them, as they say. The most that they learned from radiation is basically pretty much what they found, what they learned from Germany, and basically read in a book, or basically messed around with. They didn't even know how to sense whether or not it was radioactive, or whether or not they were in danger. Like I say, you use a piece of film. Take a piece of film, hold it around with you inside of a case or a plastic case or whatever, and it'll basically get exposed or whatever. But it's hard to tell exposed film or not. Or basically a radio is the best way. Anyway, all that stuff I knew. Everyone thought Geiger counters were Pacific or something like that. It's like, no, it's actually just a radio. If your car radio sounds statically, that's pretty much radiation or something like that. Anyway, there's lots of stuff that the American government, basically the American government's dead and they don't give a fuck. Pretty much black people, Harlan Wolf, basically Harmon Wolf, they're just laughing at everyone. You know, they've gotten the way of the dodo or whatever, and basically they're just like, hey man, more sex. Climb on, baby. There's 5 million of you. So basically pretty much the public's been being lied to since 1940 or 1920 on. Pretty much. And basically it was Harlem Wolf and basically some black people that just wanted to kill as many white people as they could before they nuked the rest of them or killed them all off, including China and Japan. But China is one of those things that they're a little hard to kill. Like I said, the black people had a little bit more effect in United Kingdom and basically Germany. But as far as the Chinese, I love you so much. Mwah! Big hug. You're very honorable. Anyway, the black people found a contender with the Japanese and Chinese. They are very tough to kill, fortunately, and I do love them very much for that fact. Anyway, no matter how many people they've tried to kill of Japan or China, they will not die, and they refuse to die. So, anyway, they're blamed for a lot of things, but it's not their fault. It was actually Harlem and Wolf and basically the black people that pretty much orchestrated the whole thing with some Yankees and Richard Nixon and John McCain, all those. And that's the truth of it. So, anyway, and pretty much it was the extermination of all races, not just. I mean, it was black people were trying to kill Chinese or Japanese too. They just weren't able to do that because they're a little bit too well organized. And I love them for that. They're a little too efficient, and they were able to they were able to dig underground, and I love China. Without China, I don't know what I would have done. I would probably be dead, and so would a lot of other people. So, Germany was a good close second, and was able to hold its own for quite a while, until they finally folded. So, unfortunately, I love Germany a lot, and everyone owes them a great debt, like they say. They basically paved the foundation for everything that came after. So, anyway. And saved me, by the way. It's the only reason why I lived is because of Germany. And I love them very dearly for it. And that's why I ordered them their country rebuilt, and as much money as I could possibly throw at them. I cared about, Germany was my country. They're the people that kept me alive, that kept me going, and also France, too. Those white people in France. I love them very dearly, too. And a few of the other places. There's one other place, too. I forget I don't know their accent, but they were there. Even though I don't know if they lived or not. It's really unfortunate. But they kept my spirits up, as they say. Even through all the pain and the suffering and everything else. They kept me going. Tried to cheer me up. And it was a long time.